Bienvenidas todas y todos al panel con ARTE France, donde Alexandre Marionneau nos contará sobre este gigante europeo en la difusión de contenidos culturales y en especial su programación de contenido documental. ¿Cuáles son los ejes de interés de ARTE en cuanto a los contenidos de no ficción? ¿Qué tipo de documentales consume la audiencia de ARTE? ¿Y cuáles son las oportunidades para América Latina en este espacio? La idea es que podamos conversar sobre estrategias para que las producciones de América Latina lleguen a este canal público, cómo postular proyectos y qué tipo de proyectos tienen más posibilidades. Así que las y los invito a preparar sus preguntas para que Alexandre al final de su exposición les pueda aclarar todas sus dudas. Les cuento también que Alexandre se ha dedicado a la docencia, ha sido jefe de redacción en ARTE, también estuvo a cargo de la dirección de una ONG y actualmente es jefe de coproducciones internacionales del Departamento de Sociedad y Cultura en ARTE France. Sus áreas de interés son los documentales en torno a historia, investigaciones, sociedad, cultura, geopolítica, medio ambiente, economía, política y documentales de creación. Finalmente les cuento que CONECTA es posible gracias al apoyo y financiamiento del Ministerio de las Culturas, las Artes y el Patrimonio a través de su línea para encuentros internacionales, el programa de apoyo para organizaciones culturales colaboradoras, ProChile, ChileDoc, la Embajada de Francia, el Instituto Francés de Chile, la Cooperación Regional de Francia, la representación Valonia-Bruselas, parte de la Embajada de Bélgica en Chile, la Corporación Cultural de Ñuñoa y la Sala de Cine de Ñuñoa. También queremos agradecer a nuestras más de 20 alianzas, a nuestros media partners, Latam Cinema y Tu Radio Ñuñoa, a nuestros colaboradores, la Cámara de Comercio de Ñuñoa, Miradoc Estrenos, Miradoc Butaca Liberada, La Fresia y Plaza Espectáculos. Dale, Alexandre.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for the introduction. Thank you to ChileDoc for having me this year for this CONECTA edition. I'm very happy to spend some time with you to explain to you what ARTE is. If you think that you know what ARTE is, it's probably wrong. You don't know. It's way too complicated. It took me 2 years to really get the whole idea of what ARTE and the universe is. So as it's been said, I'm only in ARTE for like a couple of years now, it's like 3 years, and I'm doing the international co-production for one department in ARTE France, that's called Society and Culture. But ARTE is so much more than just me and my department and what I do, and I will try to explain to you the whole extent of what we do. So ARTE actually has a meaning. It means Association de Radio-Télédiffusion Européenne, Association de Radio-Télédiffusion Europeana. So the E in ARTE really is something European. It has been founded 33 years ago, and it's part of like a deal between the state of Germany and France. So we are a public service broadcasted live in France and Germany. Public service, meaning that we get the money from the taxpayers in France and in Germany, but we have a very independent way of, like all of the presidents and all of the board of administrators are independent, so we are dedicated to a public service type of programming. The way we are broadcasted is through 3 different canal. The first one is the television, of course. So we are broadcasted live in France and Germany. The second main canal of broadcasting is the website, or the platform as we call it. It's arte.tv. I'm going to show you some after to get you a better sense. And the third one is actually YouTube. So everything that we produce, acquire, ends up on YouTube and on the platform. On the platform arte.tv in France and Germany, when we have like the basic, like the minimum of the rights, so everything that we have is at least for France and Germany, we have at all time something like 10,000 hours of content at all time. So these are the three pillars of who we are, is being a TV channel, being available on YouTube, which is where most of the audience is, and being also a platform where we have like many contents. Just to give you a brief overview of those elements that I just mentioned. So the website here we have the option to have it in Espanol. We have basically 6 languages, and this is obviously a connection in Chile, so many content that we do in Arte are available in Chile and in Espanol, directly subtitled in Espanol and sometimes translated like voiceover, like with the voiceover in Espanol. The strategy of Arte, since we are European, it's been a couple years now that we have extended the languages that we use. It went before from French and German, obviously, and now we are available in 6 languages: Spanish, Polish, Italian, and English, plus French and German. So on the website, arte.tv/es, you will have elements that you can find where the rights are worldwide. So most of the time is production that we do in-house, so we can get the world rights. But sometimes we end up having some feature lengths, like investigation. So I'll let you have a look, but just to let you know that this exists. This is the first thing that I wanted to show you. And the second one is the YouTube page. We also have a YouTube page in Espanol, youtube.com, Arte TV Documentales. At the moment, it's like 373K subscriber, and we have something like 1,000 videos, and all of the videos also, they are not always exactly the same as the one in Arte TV, but some of them are voiceovered in Espanol, as you can see here. So we have a lot of things, and we pay attention to the Spanish-speaking world. So this is very important part of who we are. Now, the way we are organized is always a mystery, because Arte, so we are a channel, but since we are 2 countries, we basically have 3 main entities. I'm part of ARTE France. I'm based in Paris, so we are a company based in Paris. And actually in ARTE France, we are not broadcasters. So we don't have like all of the technological means to broadcast elements. We are just program editors, as our mission is called. So we are a company of something like 300 persons working in Paris, dedicated to commissioning program all the time. So this is ARTE France, which is a company. We have an editorial direction. We have like many editorial meetings, so we are only dedicated to editorial, but also to acquisition. There is a second entity, also in France, but in the east part of France, in Strasbourg, which is right at the border between France and Germany, and we call that Arte GEIE, or Arte Gaie, to make it super short. It means European, it means something I can't really translate in English, so it's not really important, but that's the structural, that identification of Arte, so Arte Gaie, based in Strasbourg. Since they are like geographically in between France and Germany, they do the coordination between France and Germany, and they do the broadcast. So technically the broadcaster is not me in Arte France, it's Arte Gaie in Strasbourg. So they take all of the programs that we commission, that we produce, and blah, 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 and they put them on the tube, and then they broadcast it live, France and Germany. They do many other stuff too, but I'm going to touch on that a bit later. And then the third big entity is Arte Germany. So Arte France is a company, Arte Germany is not a company, it doesn't exist. The way that is organized in Germany, and this is where it becomes a bit complicated, is that all of the channels, so Germany is a federation, as you may know, so you have a lot of regional channels that are very powerful. You have the ARD network, and it's made out of many regional channels, like the NDR, WDR, is usually like 3 letters name, SWR, whatever, so there are like a tons of them, and basically Arte Germany, all of the channel, they take one part of the budget to commission directly for Arte. So it's my work contract is Arte France, Arte Germany, like the person that work for Arte, they actually have a ZDF or a SWR contract. So it's a bit of a complicated situation because they are not like one structure. So every time that they find a project interesting, they need to go to something a bit different that we do. So that's why it's a bit messy. The way we do with all of those structures, Arte France, we commission 40% of everything that's put on Arte in the end. Arte Germany, in total, they commission 40%, and Arte Strasbourg, they commission 20%. So that's how the big forces of it works. On the German side, the 2 main sources of program come from the ZDF, which is a national, like super big player, super big television. 50% of all of the German programming come from the ZDF, and 50% come from the ARD network. So I have the name somewhere because, no, actually I haven't. So anyway, it's like SWR, NDR, WDR, RBB, BR, it's like 9 channels that commission for Arte. So for all of the producers in the room, if you get a meeting with someone from ARTE France, ARTE Strasbourg, and then you get a no at your project, you are completely able to go to another side of ARTE, for example, Germany, and pitch the same project. The way we work, like we don't really communicate between each other, so if there is a no to a project, go to somewhere else, but then you need to know who are the channels that you need to speak to, and this is the complicated part. That's the main structure, so 3 entities, ARTE France, ARTE Strasbourg, and ARTE Germany. The way it's organized, to add some complication, because it's like 2 countries working together, is that in ARTE France, for example, when we get a project and we want to commission the project, we have a first internal meeting in my department, we put a stamp on it, then we have like a meeting with the head of ARTE France, and other person, then he put a stamp on it, and then the project goes to Strasbourg every month to something that we call the Programmkommission in German, the programming commission, and every month there's like 6, like all of the big bosses of ARTE, the president, the head of ARD, the head of ZDF, the head of ARTE France, like they get together and they review all of the project and then they put the stamp. So this is like a 3-way validation, so extremely long. We know that we can't be very agile, like many public services are usually a bit more like fast. We know we can't. It's at least 2 months. When we fell in love with the project, we need at least 2 months in ARTE France to make it sure that it gets commissioned, it gets actually commissioned, and that we can start having conversation on the contract. On the German side, it's a bit different. The German, so for example, the ZDF, if the ZDF falls in love with a project and they say, okay, I want to have this project, they go directly to the Programmkommission, and then the project, since there is not the filter of the editorial like discussion before, the project has more chance to be rejected than in ARTE France. So it's a bit faster, but there are more chances that the project is rejected. This is very technical, but this is for all of the producers in the room, the basic to know on how to work with ARTE and why it takes so long. There are very, I don't know if it's good reason, but there are reasons why the organization is like that. On the basic on who we are, I think we just covered everything. Do you have, at this point, any question on the organization? Yeah. Yeah, so for the translator, I'm going to tell the question. This is, if a project is rejected in Germany, can we go to other place in Germany or in France to pitch the project? Yes, the answer is yes. And vice versa. If the project is rejected in France, you can go to a channel in Germany, and then if it's rejected in the channel in Germany, you go to another one, etc. So for a producer, it's a lot of work to work with ARTE Germany, because you have many doors to knock on. It's a good thing. You have at least technically 3 doors, ARTE France, ARTE Strasbourg, ARTE Germany. But if you want to work with Germany, it takes a lot of time, a lot of connection to build to know who are the right person to work with. So in ARTE France, I guess it's a bit easier because we are just like one company, so it makes things a bit easier. So now talking about the programming of ARTE, we were talking with Diego before, and I think that there's a sense of what ARTE is that is complicated to give, because we do a lot. ARTE is very often associated with very cultural, highly cultural programming. This is the case, but not only. So in every the big numbers is 40% of what we broadcast is how do you say in English? I forgot. Documentary, sorry, documentales. Documentary is 40% of all of the programming. We have some fiction, we have some magazine, like daytime magazine. We don't have any entertainment. We don't really have real format, like real TV, those type of stuff. So it's really most of the time fiction, cinema, and we have a lot of cinema also, like classical cinema, really contemporary cinema. We invest a lot of money. So yeah, it's like documentary, fiction, cinema, and some magazine that are the heart of ARTE. We also have in Strasbourg a news department and many news reportages. Basically everything that you see on the website ARTE TV in Espanol or YouTube come from, most of the time, ARTE reportage is the format. For example, 35 minutes, 25 minutes, 10 minutes. When it's shorter than 52 minutes, it means usually that it comes from ARTE in Strasbourg. So it's the news department team. last week, I think, one of the reportage of Arte won the Albert Londres Prize of like best journalism pieces for like a TV reportage. So this is an Arte one. So this is a very strong team, and this is a lot of the programming. Arte France, we do 40%, Arte Germany 40%, and Arte Strasbourg, Arte Gaillard 20%. Most of those 20% are exactly the news outlets that we see. In terms of documentaries, because this is why we are here, out of the 40% of all of the programming of the whole channel, we have like 3 main departments for documentaries. My department is called Society and Culture. There is another one who, in English, it's Arts and Performances. And there is another one that's Discovery and Knowledge. So we have like basically discovery and knowledge is science, natural history, architecture, archaeology, and history, but ancient history, history without any archive. So this is like one department. The other one, arts and performances, it's everything related to arts. So if we have, I don't know, exhibition, like biographies of artists from all over the world, it's like a lot of music, a lot of live music too, can be classical concert, can be I don't know, like pop concert. We had like a Taylor Swift concert. We had like a documentary on Kim Kardashian, like for the summer, like 2 years ago, that went like extremely well. So it can go from very pop culture elements to very niche, very more special type of culture. So the range is very wide. And for me, in my department, not before, yeah, for me, my department, so we have like the investigative pieces, history, recent history with archive, so basically 20th century from now, geopolitics. We have society a bit. We have, the name of my department is Society and Culture, and it's very misleading because actually the culture is in the other department, Arts and Performance, what we call culture. We have a tiny part of culture, but it's very specific. It's with books and movies and how they are still very relevant to today's society. So this is something that we don't really co-produce internationally. It's something that we produce in France. And this is a collection that works well. So that's why we have culture in the name, but we are basically dedicated to everything current in the world in my department. But we also have 2 other strands. One is called La Lucarne. Lucarne means a tiny window. This is the experimental strand of Arte. And we have Grand Format. Grand Format is the feature-length, creative, documentary strand. So the way we are organized in Arte France, we have those 3 departments. This is our organization. In Arte Strasbourg, they have a different organization. In Arte Germany, they have a different organization. But in the end, we do the same stuff because we commission for the same channel. So the way we are organized, it's us. So if you want to go to the culture or whatever, if it's a book, if it's not, so you just need to understand a bit about how things are organized to address your project to the right person. But for us, it's like this. So I'm not going to explain the organization of the rest, but just know that it can be a bit different. But at least you get the range of everything that we do in terms of documentaries. Should I, let me think a minute. We also have a department, for your information, that's very proactive. Arte, so 33 years old, like, has been pretty famous, like, for embracing the digital world, like, pretty early. And so we have, amongst the many things that we do, we have a video game like department that actually produce video game. We have a podcast department. So we have many things that are quite successful. So we have like a web department that has a lot of money basically, and they can co-produce, pre-buy, do some acquisition of something in the documentary world. Sometimes they are, I don't know, they see a feature, like a project or feature 90 minutes, and they say, okay, this is cool, let's make it a short story only for the web. But they do that with real money. It's like real investment money. It's just like, it's not a little money, it's the same amount of money that we give if we would have taken a feature. So the web department is extremely powerful. And we have also, in each department, so the arts and performances, discovery, knowledge, and my department, we have a budget to do commission also for the web. So it's only a small part of a budget, but we can from time to time, put some money on a project, documentary, that feels that's very interesting, but it's not really for the linear channel. So we say, okay, let's develop it and do it only for arte.tv and the YouTube channel. So the range of what we can do is pretty wide, but it's not only the culture. Arte is very associated with that, but like we have many things on the state of the world also. We try to be very current as a channel and not only like the classical arts, because that was the case for a long time, but it has changed. In my department, we also have the possibility to do some special operations. I'm just going to name a few because they are the ones that we have made a lot of international co-production around. Like 3 years ago, there was an operation that started in Africa that's called Generation Africa, with the producer Don and Kids from South Africa. He gathered talent in Africa from the whole continent and made many workshops to try to get, so he made an open call to projects. There was a team that was migrations in the continent. And he wanted to have, and we wanted, it was supported by Arte very early, to have like voices from the continent of Africa telling us from the inside, what is it, like what stories do you have to tell about migration? So it ended up being a collection of 25 projects that we all co-produced. We put a lot of money in that. It was 3 years ago. It was a success, so African talent, African director and producer. So there was that. Now we are doing the second edition of Generation Africa. The theme this time is the climate justice. So we are already commissioning some projects. So this is like a huge special operation around that. And there's also something, after the war broke out in Ukraine, we got the same way of thinking and tried to make and we made a collection out of stories from Ukraine by Ukrainian talent and Ukrainian producer. And I'm just going to show you one clip to show you some images and not just to speak all the time. It's called Génération Ukraine, and it's a collection of 12 projects that we in Arte France, but also with colleagues from the German side and also with Arte in Strasbourg, we commissioned together and we tried to accompany it. We had workshop, we had like many things. It's okay, it's working, it's just the black screen of the first images. And actually, yesterday we had the broadcast of one of the projects, so the first time, so it's been 2 years that we were doing that. So I just want to show you some images about that collection, Génération Ukraine.
Стану воїном і буду братися за свою землю. Слава мать, любя детей, повезло наших предков. Войну и применение. Говори.
Конечно, она считает, конечно, нужно.
Страшно, там катуют. Подивіться на нас. Дівчата, в мене така ідея. Ми можемо зробити дещо корисне і зібрати кошти і зробити благодійний фонд.
So it was just to give you the extent of what we can do when we decide to put the energy of a group, which is kind of big in the end, into some special projects. So in this case, it's like 12 projects made after the invasion that we slowly start to broadcast. Some will be finished, the production will be finished in 2026. So we accompany them, we work with them to build like something more than just being a broadcaster that finance, and we made like a whole operation out of it, and we allow the project to have a really strong festival life. So we are a TV channel, so the money that we put on the project is basically to be broadcasted at some point. So we finance television and the platform. We don't really finance the life of a project in a festival. But in that case, we decided that it was part of the political mission of ARTE as a European public service to make sure that the project, very strong one, were seen like all over the world, and the festival are really good supporter of that. So so to try to sum up until now, basically, so ARTE is a bit massive in the sense that even though we only have one channel, one platform, and the YouTube channel, we have a lot of content to provide, and we try to have an European outlook on everything that we do. So, but also we are completely aware that there's other continents and there's a world around us, and it's not only Europe, even though ARTE, like there's the E for Europe, so we are like a public service with a European ambition, but we have to look at other places in the world. But in the programming decision that we make, we have to always ponder and figure like, does this story make sense for a European audience? This is always like in the one-to-one meeting that I had, that I will have, and that you will have with ARTE, this is always the question that you have to ask yourself if you're trying to approach ARTE. Will that story make sense for a European audience, and how do you connect a European audience? So Europe is a continent, so I often have the case of, oh yeah, there is one French element in that story, so it's definitely for you. No, I mean, it's not because there is a French element in that story, so how does it translate to the German side of ARTE? Not always. So, for example, in the thing that I commission, like the investigation, either it's like a worldwide investigation and then the whole world, it's something that connects the whole world, or either it's something very European but investigation on, I don't know, for example in Australia, like we had many investigation proposition about whatever example can I give? Yeah, but like a mass murderer in like Australia, like is feel very disconnected from Europe and from ARTE, so we have to make those decisions. So I just want you to have in mind that ARTE is very European, and everything that we do, in my department at least, because we are the department with all of the thing of the world and the current stuff, this is how we try to ponder things. But then it's complicated to sum everything up, because for the grand format strand, the feature-length creative one, then we get to be a bit more creative, and then we have the freedom of going a bit elsewhere. So we have like other criteria of research of what we want in that strand. For La Lucarne, which is a bit more experimental, it's curated in a different way. It's more like a collection of experiences. So there's like one person that curates everything, and she's actually an art curator in real life. So there has to be like emotional connection between the director, between the subjects, and there has to be like real creativity in the form. So there are many other elements. So I mean, I could talk about for a bit longer if you need about each strand, but the thing that I think would be the most important for you is to maybe telling you more about how to work with ARTE, and I want to show you a platform that's right here, projet in the plural .arte.tv/fr if you want to speak French, or we have it in English. So I'm going to switch to the English page to introduce you to that platform. So that platform is primarily used for you to submit your proposition to ARTE France only. German side, no. ARTE Strasbourg side, no. It's like different way. They don't have a platform. You need to reach out to them directly. But for us, every proposition goes through that website. So it's not only a platform for submission. We give a lot of information, and namely all of the program units that I briefly mentioned. So the arts and performance, digital creation, discovery and knowledge, the feature film. So this is the acquisition of fiction, no, sorry, of cinema. And we have the co-production also, like for the recent one. There is a tiny part of short and medium, and it's only fiction and animation, but it's a completely different circuit. And my department, society and culture. So if you go to that website and you click on each one, let's look at mine. You will have basically what I said to you, but in more detail. So with the format that we want, investigation is like always prime time, so it's 90 minutes minimum, or 2 times 52, 3 times 42 minutes, or 2 times 45, whatever. So it can, you have more detail, but if you need, we can talk about it. And then also there is you can download, I haven't clicked that before, anyway. So anyway, at the moment, poop, okay, I don't seem to have internet. It's okay, I'm not connected, but never mind. So you have the editorial guideline with a bit more information if you go there in English. The important thing is that if you go back to French, and if you go back to the main page of that website, basically here you have the editorial guidelines in there, and then it's something in French, nos programmes engagés depuis janvier 2024, which means everything that we commissioned since January 2024. So we are very transparent in ARTE France about everything that we commission. So if you want to have a better look about what's at the moment in the pipe, you have this 66-page PDF with everything. We update that every month. That gives you, I think, the best overview for every department about what we do. It's in French, you can use DeepL, you know the drill. So just have a look. So for example, in ARTE France, for the investigation, let me just check what we have at the moment. Investigation is the prime time, so we have like an investigation that's called Israel and les Arabes by Tanya Rachmanova, which is a very famous like French director, with Brooke Lapping, the British company. We have something about Haiti by Raoul Peck, the death of the president Jovenel Moïse. We have something about the taxation of the super rich. We have something about TikTok and the world war on data. Yesterday we broadcasted something, it was not yesterday. Anyway, we will broadcast soon something like the secret weapon of Putin. We have something about the oligarchs and Putin. We have, anyway, so we have many things. I'm not going to go over there, but this is to give you the range on, for example, that strand. This is what we have now in production. So it can be finished, but it's still not yet broadcasted. For everything broadcasted, either is available in Chile, either you use a VPN and you have a look on the website to make sure that you can get the latest info. So that website, I think, is the most useful one. So when you have all of the information that you need and that you have prepared your proposition, is very standard. Like we need a log line, synopsis, we need a treatment, we need like, it's only one useful info is only the producer that can upload. Like we need to work with producer. We can't work directly with filmmaker. So if you are a filmmaker and you want to work with ARTE, first step is to find a producer to do the step. If you are a director, it will be rejected, you can't. That's the useful one. The way we work in my department, and I can't talk for the rest, but I mean, we all do co-production, pre-buy, and acquisition. In my department, we don't do acquisition for the linear channel. The budgets have been shrinking as every public service in the world, so we decided that the money that we have will be used to co-produce and to support the French industry. So we don't do acquisition. But we do acquisition for the non-linear. That's also like an information for the distributor and the sales agent in the room, that we have a policy of buying projects for our platform, arte.tv and YouTube. It's a very different rate. It's usually the back catalog is we can't be super fresh because it's not a lot of money, something like €1,000 to €1,500 per hour. So it's not a lot of money, and we know that. So we are looking for like back catalogs or older elements that fit into the editorial elements. So we look for investigation, history pieces, geopolitical, still fresh. Geopolitical is complicated because, like, I mean, either it's fresh or it's old. So that's the complicated one. But we find some element that end up being on the platform. But it's very specific. All of the departments do acquisition for the non-linear. It's basically the same price for everyone, but if you have like natural history that's a bit, that's already been sold and that's already been like paid out like throughout like many commissions, then if you feel ready to have it on ARTE, it can give like some more money in the end to a new run of a project. So have a look, and it's also on that platform that you have to apply and send your proposition. As for my department, we are, I think, the only one that do that, but we don't need to have a we don't need to have a French co-producer to start a conversation. I think the rest of the department, they always want to have a French producer on board. We don't. We have worked directly with like the UK, with the States, with whatever like country. So if this is a producer and or a director that we know already, and we feel that they might handle the situation with how to work with ARTE, then it's fine. We don't need to have a French one. But at the same time, this is not the point of that talk, but working with a French co-producer, it can be very useful because the French funding system, the CNC, can get you a lot of extra money for post-production, development. There are a lot of money that you can get through the national and regional funding through a French co-producer. So this is very useful for especially the very expensive one like the prime time. So that's something, but it's up to you to decide. One of the questions that's asked quite often is also, do we take short form in my department for documentary? No, there is a short department, but it's fiction and animation, but like I can't help you with that. There are different flow. I never met the person in charge, so you have to go through the website to try to look for information and contact them if you have a project like that. And in terms of money, I mean, it changes all the time because the budget changes all the time, but for the can go up to 200K for like the most euro, for the most well-funded strand, like grand format, a very creative one, but we only have 4 a year, so it's like very competitive, but it's a lot of money. The investigation, depending on if it's like 90 minutes, 2 parts, can go up to, I don't know, like 150 to 200K. For the 52 minutes history, 110, 130. So depending on if it's pre-buy, co-production, you are going to have like different rates. So every time that we have like a budget and financing plan, like we try to tailor the investment that we made, but like the range, it's still, I think, pretty decent to work with that. And if you have a co-producer on board, it helps. So part of being a public service is also that, to try to pay like with enough money to make sure that the production gets made in the end. One question that I'm sure like you all want to know, what about Latin America? And why am I here? Except speaking of ARTE. I think maybe you got from, like, if there is a relevant, I mean, in theory, we love all type of story. We are here to welcome every story of the world because we are a public service, so we need to tell everything that's happening. So we have broadcasted many stories about Latin America. Actually, I saw that yesterday. We have, I think in history, Latin America, un destin contrarié. I'm not able to translate that, like a complicated destiny, should we say. So this is a French co-production, a 3-part 52 for the recent history of Latin America. So basically we have something, it's a French team, it's been in development or in production now, I think, for like 2 years. I don't know much about the project, but yeah, I mean, we are interested in things like regarding Latin America in the history, but not only. We are considering story about Brazil. I know this is not Brazil, but we have like we try to pay attention to every part of the world. So if you have a story, a relevance, we have worked with Carola Fuentes, that you know, like she has been like in the geopolitical strand, 52 about the Las Economistas contra del Pueblo, something like that. The economist against the people. We have made that with her. So yeah, we are paying attention to the talent in at least Chile and Latin America and try to find stories that are working with ARTE. This is only for my department. I'm sure that in the art department, in the natural history department, they have way more like access, because it's a bit, Chile is like an amazing country, and you have so much thing to show like in terms of nature. So I'm sure that they have stuff, but I can't really talk to them. So in theory, yes, we can definitely work together, and that's why I'm here to look for stories that can match and that can fit into our programming. But if we are being practical, in ARTE the money keeps shrinking, so each year the way we work is that we get to co-produce, I don't know, like 3 years ago when I arrived, it was something like you can do like 10 investigative primetime film. Now it's like, it's like 8 or 7, so each year like we lose one, so the fact that there's that type of pressure, because we still want to fund well the project, we have to make choices. So the choices sometimes are just like working with the French is also part of our mission. So this is a factor now. But we also know that making co-production is a way to have access to story that we would never have before. So we always pay a really close attention to everything international. And I'm the one to do that. So each year we try to have at least one in every strand of international co-production. So we have been very focused on Ukraine for the past 2 years. We have been very focused on Africa 3 years ago and the year to come. But, I mean, we won't do a collection about Latin America. It doesn't make any sense at the moment, but we will pay attention. This is what I can tell you now. I spoke like 46 minutes. That's a lot. We can do the question, yeah.
¿En español mejor?
En español, sí.
Ok. Bueno, yo soy Marcelo de Brasil, productor de Brasil. Me gustaría si tienes algún ejemplo de coproducción con América Latina que podría compartir con nosotros, que para usted fue exitosa, especialmente en los últimos años. Sería increíble, si posible.
The last few years we didn't have any co-production with Latin America. We had like a minority co-producer on a few stories. I think the Carola Fuentes one, we had obviously Ventana. I think there was a French co-producer on board, so this is an example that worked well. On the Fiji, I know that my co-worker Rasha Salti, who's working for La Lucarne, she does work with Latin America a lot, and Central America, and also like with the world, so it's usually working very well, but it's a very specific part of ARTE, so I don't have much experience. As for me, at the moment, I haven't really structured like an international co-production with Latin America that I know of. I know there are some minority producers on the few that we had recently, but then if they are minority, I speak with the French one, and if it's work, like there's no much story to tell on that.
Hola, buenas tardes. Primero agradecerte por estar acá con nosotros, ser tan claro con la información acá en Latinoamérica. Es curioso lo que menciona respecto a la no colaboración el año pasado. Han sido años, yo creo, de muchas tribulaciones acá en Latinoamérica. Así que sería bien interesante poder contar con el apoyo de ustedes, sobre todo con lo heterogéneo del contenido que ustedes plantean. Quería preguntarte respecto a una parte en tu exposición donde mencionaste que la menor parte de los contenidos que ustedes movían eran los third parties, ¿no es cierto?, los contenidos de terceros colaboradores. ¿Cuál es el proceso en ese caso, aparte obviamente de todo este mecanismo de las formas que nos estaban mostrando ahora en la página? Y también cómo ustedes se relacionan con los proyectos directamente. Yo también soy guionista de profesión. Entonces me interesa como si tengo una film crew, cuál es la manera de llevarlo y a qué nivel ustedes apañan esa producción. Muchas gracias.
So you meant the three parts on Latin America, right? Tu pregunta es sobre eso, América Latina? No, sorry. Okay, how we work. So the question was, how do I work in terms of structuring and co-production, like minority, majority? Is that it? So if a project comes from a country, Chile, for example, and then wants to reach out to like a broadcaster abroad, then in that case, I think for La Ventana, they go to like French copro or like European co-producer, and then we get the propositions or through an email if it was before the platform time. Then we put the money that goes, if there is a French, money goes to the French co-producer, so it becomes like majority co-producer. So in that case, the Chilean project is like minority, but just in terms of financing, because I don't know precisely enough, but like it's about who brings the more money to the table, and since in France with Arte we can put a lot of money, then we become automatically. So the way we work is that we are like funding majoritarily, but we are also, if it's a co-production relationship with us as a co-producer, basically, we don't organize like shooting. This is not like executive production. This is more like a financial production and editorial production. So we basically, for basically a project, whatever project we got a proposition on paper. We say, okay, this one is interesting. We have a first meeting with the team so that we can understand better. Okay, the project is about this and that. So what is the storyline, the art, what is the format, what's the plan, production. If we are convinced, we go through all of the process that I explained, the first commission, the second commission. Then you get the seal of approval, and then you get the authorization to start the conversation about the contract and to get the money. In France, like one information is that you get the money by different payment, different installment. In Germany, you get the money very late. You have to finance all of the financement of the project to get the money. So it's very different. But in France, you get like several installments of money. So you start the production. At some point you just work on your side. You do some email to say, okay, everything is going well, we got this and that. When you have like a first cut, you call us, and then we come on the editing room, and then we start again the conversation, and then like we have to collectively agree on a cut that we are going to green light, and then we are going to finish. This is like the basic of the process. I hope that answers your question. Yeah. Okay.
Soy una fanática de arte y estamos trabajando con una productora en Francia, Ségolène du Jardin, que acaba de hacer tener varios premios allá. Trabajamos con comunicación científica y te quería preguntar, siempre es como que el financiamiento con Ségolène va a ir como de la mano, o sea, en el fondo es mejor postular con ella a ARTE France o ARTE Alemania, o hablar primero con ARTE Alemania y ver qué pasa, porque estuve en una reunión con ella y nos dijo, y esto como para todos en realidad, como estratégicamente, que era bueno no decir a veces que uno, por ejemplo, si uno va a ARTE Alemania, decir que uno va con un productor para ver qué quieren ellos un poco, como que ir un poco jugando al gambler. ¿Qué piensas tú de eso?
This is a classical case of like the producer that know the system. They try to play on both sides of the stuff. I get it. I mean, this is about getting the most money, so I understand in theory. Practically, like it's all puts us in very miserable position because we don't want to compete with each other. So we had the case sometime when we know the producer are a bit sneaky and they say, oh, I have this interest. So my honest advice is just like, if you have an interest from someone, whether it's ARTE France, Germany, whatever, you just like follow that interest and don't try to compete with other side of Arte. The fact is that ARTE France has a bit more money when we invest, so that's why producers like always try to go to ARTE France first, because we have the reputation, at least for my department, to have a bit more money. I have no idea about natural history and art culture, but in comparison with like the ZDF or SWR, like I think we have a slightly bit more budget on a few of our strands, but not on all of the strands. So that's why it's not a really good strategy to try to play on both sides. And that's always the fact that, I mean, in the end, it will be broadcasted in the same channel. So, I mean, if it's a good project, whether it's been taken by like, German or French, like, we don't really care. It's not really the stuff. So if it's a good project, it's going to be picked up, I guess, at some point by someone. The thing is, like working in TV channel, you have all of those constraints that are not really, I mean, it's normal that we don't publicize them, but we can do only, I don't know, like seven investigation prime time. And if we have your project at the time when we have already commissioned the 7, or we have already commissioned 6, and we have a 7th one on the line, we say, okay, it's not for us this year, even though it's a good project. So we know that this is life I mean, for us, this is like that happens all the time. So even though the project is very good, sometimes it's not for us for reasons that just are beyond us, and we accept that because we have to. So then it goes to another one. So I know that ARTE, since it's complicated, but we can find a lot of space to do stuff. So I personally, I do all the time. If I have like super cool project that's really important, blah, 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 but we can't have it, I give the word to my colleague in Germany. I send the email, I give the email to the person, say you should talk to that person in that department because they might be interested. But then I don't know, because we all have like all of the constraints like change all the time. So, I mean, it's very like very naive, but like just be honest, like in your strategy. That's usually what works best. Sometimes like, because ARTE, we are, especially in Europe, we travel a lot, like going to many markets. So you can get a good meeting with someone from that part of Germany, and then the French co-producer get a good meeting with ARTE France. So there's just a moment when they say, okay, what is the best strategy? So if we talk about it all together, usually it works better than trying to go behind the back of the broadcaster.
Yo creo que ya estamos en el tiempo, sí. Son las 1, así que quizás podría ser una última pregunta, si no, lo cerramos acá. ¿Alguien más tiene alguna duda? ¿Sí? La última pregunta y cerramos. Ya.
Gracias. No, quisiera aprovechar también de consultarte respecto, antes de leer las formas que nos mencionabas, los formularios. ¿En qué etapa de los proyectos tú quizás recomiendas estar? Quizás desde el guión, desde la preproducción ya terminada, como desde el excerpt, o ya sería como algo grabado. Eso, muchas gracias. O el producto final, claro.
Yes, this is a very good question, and I had it, but I forgot to mention, so thank you for reminding me. Basically on the so we very rarely do development. So we sometimes do development with production or like with talent that we already know and that they can get access to us and say, okay, we have that. So we have the possibility, but it's always a bet to do development. So we try to have that as a very like minority possibility, but it happens sometimes. So, and to answer you, if you think that you have a project that's, I mean, it's very theoretical, basically, late development, early production is the best. If you have images, this is great. If you don't, I mean, it's okay, like that happens. It's always risky to send images that don't really reflect the final quality of intention. So I'm always very careful like with sending images or showing images, because there's always a risk of, it can be very off-putting. We see a lot of images all the time, so we need to, I mean, make a kind of quick decision. So very careful about the images. As ARTE is like in 2 countries, everything that we do has to be written. So all of the proposition, blah blah. We are, I think, special in that sense and known for. We require a lot of written elements because everything is translated. The way we work with the commission means that at some point I don't get to pitch the project to the boss, because it's in the paper. So everything has to be in paper. So the Anglo-Saxon way of like doing a pitch deck, whatever, like in 5 slides, like it doesn't work for us. We usually have like a long ass, like a treatment, like 30 pages, like this is what we work with most of the time. So it doesn't have to be like a script per se, but a really long explanation. So the element that we really, or at least that the French know that we like, are the synopsis, the logline, obviously, a synopsis, the director's intention, the production strategy, and then the story, the synopsis. Like, what do you want? If it's an investigation, what type of element do you have? What do you want to unfold and to pursue? Like, what? Like, it has to be clear. Like, what have you got already? What do you want to have next? What is the plan? So that we can get a clear idea. But then, if it's a bit more creative project, obviously it's like different type of writing, but it needs to be thorough. It needs to be like it needs to leave zero question. That's the ideal version. So, but in that, usually like we work together on that. It's also part of my job to try to give you more element. Like we need more of this. Like this is too vague. Like So yeah, there's a really big difference between like the international way of presenting a project, like with a pitch deck or whatever, and the French way, which is very wordy, a lot of words, a lot of paragraph, a lot of like, yeah, it's kind of a theoretical essay. And then it has to also like touch on the cinematography, how you plan. So it needs to be, it's a lot of elements basically. But this is the French way. When we work international, we know that this is not what we can expect for everyone, so we are completely okay with that. And sometimes just like a regular pitch deck can do the work. We just add some more pages and not just like a, you know, buzzwords. Like there are a lot of buzzwords, like the impact campaign. I mean, yeah, sure, but we are not financing an impact campaign. This is not, yeah, festival strategy. Yeah, sure. I mean, we are television. So this is all of the stuff. Like just leave them out. Like just focus on the story, and that's more important for us.
Me avisan que tenemos unos minutos más, así que si hay más preguntas, denle más. Sí, obvio. No, sí, hay más tiempo. Así que.
¿Cuándo es la mejor? O sea, parece que se puede postular todos los meses o hay una época ideal para postular a tu departamento.
You just send them whenever, like the monthly meeting is just like our internal little kitchen, so you just send them wherever. I mean, if you are strategic, like the end of the year is the moment when we might have some magical extra budget that appears, so we can make some, so yeah, sending things in September for the next year is usually kind of a good idea, or the beginning of the year. But also, I mean, depending on the strand, depending on the heavy, I mean, this is the French way in my department. Maybe they have a different way in the ZDF. I don't know if they work on from January to December in terms of fiscal year. I suppose they do, but I'm not 100% certain. So, but we do, when we really like something, we put them on, we put the project on hold to have it like commissioned for like the budget of next year. So we find ways when we can. So yeah, there is it makes a tiny difference, but it doesn't make that huge of a difference. If it's a good project, we are going to try to find a way anyway. So that's not the decisive factor, is more on what's the project about and is it a good project for us.
¿No? Last chance. Sí.
Hola. En términos de adquisición de películas terminadas, mencionaste que hacen algunas adquisiciones. ¿Podrías hablar un poquito más de cómo funciona ese proceso?
So for the linear broadcasting, I think since I'm there, we have only made one acquisition. It was when the Queen Elizabeth died, and we were talking with the BBC about something. And anyway, so she died a bit earlier than expected. So we had a very quick acquisition. We wanted to go into co-production with something else. Anyway, so this is, we had this time an acquisition because it was something out of the programming. We needed something and we hadn't anything at the moment. So, okay, this is the only time that, since the 3 years that we made acquisition for the linear. For the non-linear, so when I started I started to do some acquisition also, and actually Chilean story about like meteorites and everything, something sold by Outlook, the Austrian company. That was extremely cool. The way we do is that we have a budget, the budget that I told you, like $100 euros to 1,500, sorry, 1,000 euros to 1,000, 15,000, oh, I can't, 1,000 euros, entre 1,000 euros and 1,500 euros per hour. I can't speak all of the language. So this is what we do. So we have a proposition like that, and we watch and we say, okay, can it fit Arte's programming on the platform? Like, is it Arte enough for us? So the process is just like, is it a good story? Is it relevant? Does it have a European outlook point of view, depending, or is it something that we feel could be of interest for the audience? Like, does it have some is there like an event in the world that will put that story on the map? Like, I don't know, 6 months from now, is there like a summit, like international, something that we can like add connection with. This is important for us because keep in mind that we have like 10,000 hours of content at all time. So we want the project that we acquire to be seen. So when we put them on the platform, like they need to be put on the front page at some point and to say something. If we put something that's completely disconnected from the state of the world or that has no relevance, like it will not work. So we need to find those relevance. So this is part of the thinking process of, yeah, is it good? Is it Arte good? And is it, because in terms of styles, for example, in the things that we don't do, but I haven't seen yet, and I'm very glad, but we don't do like true crime stories, like this is not our thing, like we don't really do long series, we only do like, so as you see, 90 minutes, like the maximum we do is like 3-part series, because we broadcast them back to back in the same evening. I know it's not about the acquisition, I just like drifted away, but so no series, but on the linear, on the website, we do series, like this is more free, but for the linear, so different way. I completely lost my train of thought, but so I think this is the end. No, there's another one.
Hola, mira, te quería preguntar sobre que yo, bueno, he logrado con mi pequeña productora chilena, yo soy director y productor, con una productora pequeñita, llegar a tener un primer corte avanzado de un documental aproximadamente en 90 minutos, y eso es de interés para Arte en esa etapa. Si yo busco un coproductor francés o ya en esa etapa no les interesa y solo les interesa la escritura del proyecto, que vaya más en desarrollo, con que hablabas tú, las 30 páginas del desarrollo, qué sé yo, sinopsis, o es una etapa que se puede aplicar también.
Thank you for the question. So if it's a 90-minute and a feature, there are only 2 possibilities for us. Either is a prime time. So if it's prime time, it means it's prime time investigation or prime time history or prime time geopolitics. So either is this type of movie, or if it's feature, creative one, it's like for one of the strands that's called grand format or la lucarne. So depending on that, on the story, but I don't want to hear about the story, just to give you the case. If it's like you have a first cut and then like if it's like investigation, unless it's extremely relevant, compelling and stuff, it will probably be not for us. We like to go early and be like real co-producers, because it doesn't make sense to co-produce at the very end when you have a cut. So we can agree on that. But sometimes, to be honest, we have like, I don't know, weirdly, we have like one possibility for a pre-buy a year. So if it may be pre-buy material, like we can have a look. So this is the first case. Second case, this is more of a creative type of documentary, so it goes to the 2 other strands. If it's grand format, we work as a commission, so which means every commissioning editor in my team, we are like 7, 8, I think, we just gather projects from all over the planet, and once every 4 months, we put them on the table, and we have to collectively agree on a project. And then sometimes we don't agree, so we just take nothing. Here, it's a bit more, like we have a bit more freedom, so it happened only once that we took a project that was at the rough cut stage that we all fell in love with, and that was like, I forgot, the one from Johan Grimont-Prez, Soundtrack to a Coup d'État, that had an amazing run this year in festival and everything, so it's not broadcasted yet, so that only happened with that very special one, so that's more on the exceptional side of things. But for La Lucarne, it might be possible. So all of that also is, all of those answers is for ARTE France only. I think the German, they might have a different outlook on things. Oh, Carola, I haven't seen you before. Hi. I talked about you earlier. So, yeah, maybe the German might want to look, if it's feature-length creative, like they might want to look at, because they don't work as commission as we do, so they might want to jump in at any stage. Maybe they have pre-buy, maybe it makes sense for them. So for me, probably not. For the rest, maybe.
¿Alguien más quiere preguntar? Aprovechen. ¿Sí? Sí.
Ya. En términos de presupuestos que manejan ustedes, ¿hay algún presupuesto estimado solo para Latinoamérica o es solamente las selecciones basadas en la calidad de los proyectos? Antes sí que pueden entrar 2 proyectos, 3 proyectos desde Latinoamérica.
It's the same project it's the same budget for everyone. We just tailor that to the project, not like from the country of origin of the project. If it's a project that's already very well financed, then we will try to maybe make sure, sometimes it doesn't make sense, but to get a little bit on the lower side of things, and if it's a project that needs more support, we'll put a little bit more. So it's the way we are organized is that there's a different department in my department that does all of the business affairs, so they have like a budget to manage, so it's their thing, but we try to tailor, like to make it really tailor-made to the project. So there's no such thing as if it's for that country we put this and that, so depend on the project, the structuration of the financing, depend on all of the like technical element of the budget part.
¿Alguien más? ¿Sí?
Hola, gracias por tu exposición. Tenía una pregunta en términos de las audiencias. Ustedes, en términos de temáticas que les interesa abordar y exponer en el fondo para las audiencias, ¿los definen? ¿Son más o menos similares durante los ciclos del año? ¿O ustedes, en el fondo, van buscando tendencias o generar discusión, conversación? ¿Cuál dirías tú que es la línea en términos de definir temáticas de interés? Gracias.
That is a big question. Trends. I mean, we have to pay attention to the world. So this is what drives us into the decision that we make. So if, like, for the past few years in Europe, like the rise of the far right is very concerning, especially for a public service, the situation of the war in Ukraine. So these are all the elements. I don't know if we can call that trend, but it's more like the state, like a very complicated state of the world, to put it mildly. So yeah, we pay attention to that. So if it's a trend, I don't know, but we need to be talking to about the world. Arte is really talking about the world through a European lens. So if it's something that really is important to the world, and we can disagree on the appreciation, but it will interest us. So yeah, I guess I suppose we can say that we pay attention to, I mean, of course we pay attention to what's happening to the world, but so we also, for a few strands like investigation, or we pay attention to subjects, but we mostly pay attention to stories and to how the story is developed, and like the storytelling and the aesthetics. So we pay attention to a whole lot of stuff. So when I get pitched, like I have a story on this and that, it's never enough to pick my interest or to pick any interest of anyone in Arte. Like I have a story about what have been pitched lately. In IDFA, I have like access to a person that want to prosecute Netanyahu. It's someone from the team. It's like, okay, sure. So what's the story? And then it's like embedded camera, like following him. So it is absolutely not the writing of Arte. Like it's very like it was completely fly on the wall with the ambition of making a series of 4 episodes. So yeah, it's a subject, an interesting one. It's just not for us because it's not like the format doesn't work. Like the type of just like being fly on the wall, following someone and not having direct interaction with the character is not really for us. So so it goes beyond the subject. It's a whole lot of elements. I hope that answers. But also regarding the audience, you made me think of something that I didn't say to maybe finish on the notes, which is the audiences of Arte, to give you an overview. Arte on the linear channel, so the average in terms of percentage is like we are 3% in France. That's the average on the year. Like we reach out to 3% each year with whatever we do. But it's way more interesting on the non-linear, because with YouTube only, last year we had 2 billion viewed videos, which is a lot, to be honest. It's not Netflix numbers, but it's not China's numbers too, but it's kind of a lot and like way more, like extremely big actually. So we have many channels, and like that strategy of being available everywhere is really paying off. So as you can see, we have like 1,000 videos on Arte, YouTube and Espanol. So yeah, this is like the way we exist and the way we survive and the way we as a brand Arte like is kind of shining as a public service is really thanks to that. So I really want to encourage you to have a look on what we do to make sure that you can understand a bit better, because Since we are European and like two countries, like there are many layers of complexity that I'm completely aware of. So it can be complicated to go inside, but it's not entirely impossible if you have like the right project and the right person at the right moment. Like it can work.
¿Alguien más quiere preguntar? ¿No? Ya, entonces... ¿Cómo? Ah, ya. Ya, entonces, muchas gracias, Alexandre, por el panel.